I am therefore going to read our typical disclaimer. I would like to announce at the record this meeting is being conducted pursuant to California Government Code 54953, Section B, concerning teleconferencing of meetings. Trustee President Brian Swanson is participating in this meeting by speakerphone from, let's see if I have it here, Chelsea Hotel in Toronto, Ontario. And I have a few questions to ask President Swanson in accordance with the Brown Act. Also in accordance with the Brown Act, this location has been identified on the agenda for this meeting. Brian, are you able to hear our proceedings on this end?
I sure am, yes.
Do you have a copy of the agenda for this meeting?
I do.
Has the agenda been posted at your location?
It has.
Is your location such that any member of the public could participate in the public portions of this teleconferencing meeting from your location?
Yes, it is.
How many fingers am I holding up?
I was looking at the agenda, but you're holding up, it looks like 3.
Good job. Okay. That was not, I just added that one. Members of the board, are you able to hear Brian? So for the record, all members of the board have said yes. Finally, because we're having a meeting with teleconferencing tonight, all of our actions will be via roll call vote versus majority vote. Okay.
Perfect.
I think with that, you can call us to order.
Okay. All right. Let's bring this meeting to order. Thank you, Trustee Dr. Hazen, for going through that, and also to Director Agaze for bringing this together, because it looked like for a minute Toronto was not in the cards. That's impressive. That's really amazingly impressive in such short order too. So we are called to order. As we begin this meeting, it is important to pay respect and to acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Ohlone, Castanoan, and Esalen people, and additionally pay respect to elders both past and present. Can we begin with a roll call?
Most certainly. President Swanson.
Present.
Clerk Dr. Hazen.
Here.
Trustee McNary. Here. Trustee Otmar. Here. And Trustee Swanson. Here.
Perfect. So we are all here. Moving on to the adoption of the agenda as we see it right now. Is there any public comment on this particular agenda? I can't see Lewis's hand, so.
None in person, none online.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to board discussion. Any issues with the agenda as presented?
Nobody nodding, everyone shaking their head.
Okay, very good. So can we see a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
Also move.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion from Trustee Dr. Hazen and a second from Trustee Otmar. This does need to be a roll call vote, so can we roll through the roll call?
President Swanson.
Aye.
Dr. Hazen.
Aye.
Trustee McNary.
Aye.
Trustee Otmar.
Aye.
Trustee Swanson. Aye.
Right, it passes unanimously. I believe now moving on to closed session, I'm going to identify closed session topics, which are negotiations, collective bargaining with PGTA, planning and preparation for 23-24. Second item, negotiations, collective bargaining session, planning and prep with CSEA for 23-24. The third item, public employee discipline / dismissal, release, leave, complaint. Number 4, public employee appointment / employment, human resources director. Number 5, public employee appointment / employment principal. The sixth item, public employee evaluation, completing the evaluation of our superintendent. The seventh item, conference with labor negotiator, agency negotiator, board president and legal counsel, and unrepresented employee superintendent. Also public, and now moving on to, is there any public comment on these closed session topics?
None online, none in the room.
Okay, great. So we are now ready to adjourn to closed session. I will see you all in there.
Adjourn. Gaveling back in at 7:11.
Great. Thanks, everybody, for waiting. Sorry we ran a little bit late. Lots to talk about back there. Reporting on items discussed during closed session. Items number 1 and 2, there is nothing to report. items number 3, 4, and 5, information was given. And items number 6 and 7, we will be returning to closed session after we work through the rest of this agenda. And so with that, Elliot, you want to lead us through the Pledge of Allegiance?
Can do.
Okay, thank you very much. I could not find an American flag up here in Toronto. I'm sure they exist somewhere, but not at the Chelsea Hotel. So with that, moving on to written communications. It was very quiet week and a half. I only had 2 items. A thank you note from CSEA for making negotiations go so smoothly, and especially pointing out our fine negotiation team of Claudia Ariano, Josh Jorn, Yolanda Cork-Anthony, and Kristen Arps. And then one email concerning kindergarten class sizes. Board, any others?
I have one. Oh,
Go right ahead. Nope, after you.
I have one more. We got an invitation from City Hall regarding the city's pride raising flag ceremony.
And I was just going to mention, we got one email concerning a person who has contact with students.
Yeah, anybody else?
I've got a couple. I got an email about new policies, Planned Parenthood contract, 3 emails about kindergarten class size, PG city budget, high school course offerings, community college advice, and intern project, and that is all.
I have nothing to add.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Moving on now to board member comments. I'm going to go from left to right on my screen with Carolyn, if you want to start.
No comment tonight.
Okay, Trustee Otmar.
I'll save it for another time, just so we can be quick tonight.
Right. Trustee McNary.
I attended the city's pride flag raising ceremony earlier in the month, and it was really wonderful to see Dr. Adamson there. And attending it the last few years, the group has grown and grown. So it's great to see people coming out and supporting our LGBTQ plus community. And thank you for being there.
Right, awesome. Thank you.
No comments from me.
Okay. Moving on now to our superintendent report.
Oh, you didn't have any comments, President Swanson?
Oh, yeah, no, I don't. So
Okay.
maybe I could complain about the weather, but otherwise, no, looking forward to getting home tomorrow.
All right, very good. Then I'll go ahead and just a few short things to do because it's summer and it's been a nice slow pace. I will say I've kind of been enjoying, as I know everyone here at the district office staff has been, to just the time to plan and catch up on things. And that's the beauty about summer. I think when you're at the district level office and in management, you have the luxury of that time with schools closed. But schools really aren't all closed because we have summer school that continues. And I just want to, say a shout out to all of our staff for, their continued efforts to keep learning alive for our students. To our, Director Cork-Anthony, who's sitting over there at the back, for continue to oversee ESY for our students who, again, just helping support that continued learning. It's just, I think it's the ability for us to be able to continue that extended learning for, all students. So it's wonderful to see. I shared at our last meeting that Director Anderson and his MOT team, were already hard at work, and that continues at all of our school sites. So again, I encourage you, if you're out there and you're seeing that work, step in and reach out and say a word of thanks to our team members who continue that work. We're excited to see where we end up at the end of the summer. So again, thank you to you, Director Anderson. Let's see, I think as far as part of our planning, so much of what we're in the throes of right now is already thinking about the beginning of a new school year. And so we already have begun looking at our agenda for our management retreat, which is on July 22nd, which will be at Pebble Beach. We're really excited about that to, just really that's our opportunity to set the tone for our management team and really talk about, what the year ahead has in store. And we're looking at possibly a book reading for that and just a lot of, great sort of inspirational work for our management team to, get them rolling and going for the year. So excited about that. And then August will be here before we know it. And so August 2nd is the day scheduled for our teachers. We have a full day of PD. As Director Rogerman had shared at our last meeting, the strong focus for that day is going to be training with the Restorative Justice Program. We had a meeting with our lead instructor earlier this week to begin planning for that. But again, that's our opportunity to set the tone for our staff, for our teachers. We're going to be inviting our classified staff to that as well. And that's, again, it just sets us off on the right tone, reminding of what our theme for the year is and all things that we've worked so hard in our LCAP to put in place. Again, that's our opportunity to start putting that in motion. So lots of things to look forward to. And with that, though, it is summer and I am going to be off for a little bit of time starting tomorrow, and I'm excited about that. So we'll be out of connection for maybe 8 days or so, and I'm excited for that. So yes, back to you, President Swanson.
Extremely well-deserved time off. Moving on now to community members for non-agenda items. I think everybody knows the rules here. You will be limited to 3 minutes and a collective 20 on any particular item. And again, this is non-agenda. So Dr. Elliot Hazen is wielding the gavel tonight, and he will use it if necessary. So do we have any community members wishing to comment on non-agenda items?
None in person, none online.
Yeah, I don't see anybody with their hand up online either. So with that, let's move on to PGUSD staff comments on non-agenda items.
Hi, I just want to bring back to the board a little report on bathroom stalls. So I did some research and I talked to my staff, and it's really important, I think, that the district know and that the board know that over the years, they have repeatedly reinstalled and reinstalled and reinstalled urinal dividers, and the kids keep ripping them off the walls. So we're going to design something that we think is a little better. But I just think it's important to note that it's something that is basically, I guess the crew has kind of given up on putting them back on the walls because they just continually rip them off the wall. We had one ripped off the wall this week. So even with school out, they're still getting ripped off the walls. So I just wanted to kind of defend the crew and let them know they were kind of incensed in the fact that, they keep putting them back and they keep getting ripped off the walls. So I just thought it was important that you all knew that, and that we're going to go ahead and put something back, and we're going to do the best we can to put something that they'll have a difficult time ripping off the walls. So thank you.
Right. Thank you for that. I'm anxious to see what those look like. And anybody else in the room on this particular item? I'm seeing a no. Okay, so moving on to the consent agenda, which is much smaller than it has been recently. We only have items A through J here. Let's first go to, and I'm sorry, it's like I only have one screen and I don't have anything printed out here, so I'm trying to do this a little bit differently. Are there any public comments on the consent agenda? I'm not seeing anybody online. Board members? All right, nothing that we're going to look to poll. So given that, every vote tonight is a roll call vote. Can I get a motion to approve consent?
I'll make a motion.
I will second then. We have a motion from Trustee McNary and I seconded. Let's go to roll call.
President Swanson,
Aye.
Dr. Hazen,
Aye.
Trustee McNary,
Aye.
Trustee Otmar,
Aye.
Trustee Swanson.
Aye.
Great. Passes unanimously. Let's now move on to one of two action discussion items. This is our contract for services with BL PGUSD. This is going to be presented by Buck Rogeman. It says Buck Rogeman, Superintendent. So congratulations.
Is there something you want to tell me?
The next item says Dr. Linda Adamson, Director of Curriculum and Special Projects, just so you know. Swap.
Yes, we'll talk to you guys after.
I did just check the board cover page for this item, and I am listed as Buck Rogeman, Director of Curriculum and Special Projects. So it's my pleasure to be with you here this evening to bring forward a contract that is going to extend a partnership that began with the Black Leaders and Allies Collaborative this year. They have been absolutely pivotal in the work that we've done with our management team to put together our bias incident response framework that is going to be one of the cornerstones of the professional development session that we have on August 2nd. Dr. Adamson mentioned the other main cornerstone of that work that we're doing is with the Restorative Justice Partnership. And one of the aspects of the consulting that Black is going to do is meet with the presenters for the Restorative Justice Partnership, and that is going to be part of what this contract is going to cover. In that consultation, we are going to help ensure that when we train our staff in our restorative justice practices, that we keep in mind all of our student groups when we're putting together this training. And so we want to constantly have that lens. And this partnership with the Black Leaders and Allies Collaborative is going to help us to be able to do that. When the district put together our core values of belonging, safety, and prosperity, that also was done in consultation with the Black Leaders and Allies Collaborative as well. Then one of the things that we understood is that moving forward this year, as we could commit to this work that began a couple of years ago and is really at the forefront of what we're going to be doing, that we would need some assistance in how we communicate that to our families. And so what this contract for services also has are some of the communications efforts that we're going to put forth, to help the community understand what that goal for in terms of cultural proficiency means to the district, and also to describe how the cultural proficiency implementation has been built into the LCAP system as part of goal 4. So that ongoing education and communication effort is part of this partnership as well. That's kind of our plan going forward. When we're looking at a communications plan, we want to develop a portion of that plan and plan out what we're going to do for the following year. But we also want to have built within the plan the flexibility, so as things come up, if the communication needs to adjust to the circumstances at hand, that we have the ability to do that as well. So it's going to be kind of a combination of us planning such things as a district rollout through the voice of Dr. Adamson that's going to be shared via video with staff and with families. And then also to have a poster, a statement that can be in every room that's in the district that is going to talk about what belonging, safety, and prosperity mean in terms of our core values and what we want to stand for as a district. And so that kind of gives you an idea of what the contract represents. And I'm happy to field any questions at this time.
All right, I believe we first go out to public comment on this particular item. So do we have anybody online? I'm not seeing anybody's hand raised or anyone in the room right now. Oh, we do have a hand raised now too. So, well, no. So let's go back to the hand. We'll come back to the hand. So I see somebody coming up to the podium already. I don't want to make you have to go sit down again. So. Okay, there you go. That works too. So I see Mel Mason with his hand.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I am Mel Mason. I'm here on Zoom because I'm babysitting late my granddaughter, so who's asleep. So, but first, I still find it necessary to uplift and acknowledge a courageous Black parent named Valerie Anthony, who stand against racism in the school district, is the reason why we are here and talking about the things that Mr. Buck was talking about. With regard to this contract, it is stated that this is an enhancement of services that the organization has provided the district throughout the development of the cultural proficiency plan. I was a little confused on that one, but one of my questions is, what were those services? It states that the organization has provided consultation with district staff. Question is, what did those consultations consist of, and who specifically were those consultations with? What kind of trainings did it carry out? Was there a curriculum, a copy of which was given to the district for reference? Was there a final report done to the board? This is from the previous contract that spoke to whether or not the goals of the contract were met, how well they were met, and in fact, what concretely were the goals? What kind of tool was used to measure it, to measure if and how well the organization met its goals? The report also states that if this new contract is approved, the organization will guide the district in your communications efforts around cultural proficiency so that the messages accurately reflect the input of your community partners. Question is, who are those partners and were they reached out to? How were they reached out to, and what were the results of the outreach? The previous and proposed contract speaks to licenses and certifications, presumably competencies, and what licenses and competencies are you looking for in this for this organization to have, and how will they verify it? Lastly, we don't want these contracts to be used as a substitute for the long-term, in-depth work that needs the expertise of an organization that has an extensive, highly recognized history of transforming systems. So those are my questions.
All right, thank you. Just as a reminder, these questions could be answered if one of the board members wanted to ask those questions of staff, or often we will ask those involved to connect with you directly.
President Swanson, I do share, I actually had a few of the same questions as Mr. Mason, so I would appreciate more information in response to them.
Which question specifically?
Yeah.
All of them.
I think I can definitely speak to a few of them now, and then what I would, request is to, for us to have a chance to maybe put together some more sort of in-depth, responses to it, and we could, provide that in an update, and, even, to Mr. Mason as well, if you wanted to, we could do a follow-up, on that as well. But I think, just some of the questions that I noted that I wrote down, you asked specifically what consultations did BLAAC provide, throughout the year. So they were very heavily involved in all of the trainings that we did with NCBI. And so they actually consulted and worked together to provide, there was a full day training that was given to, all of our staff back in February. That was actually our full PD day of training that really was administered was a combination of, the instructors from BLAAC and then, NCBI constructors as well, and instructors. And they really did, they worked together with us to put that, that training together very much in alignment with our, cultural proficiency plans. I think, that's the first piece. And, in addition to that, BLAAC and NCBI offered several, it was probably 6 or 7 trainings to our management team throughout the year. In fact, that was, at least one of our 2 meetings a month was substituted with a complete focus on our cultural proficiency training. And that, again, was provided by Derek Williams and his team and, the team that we're working with NCBI. In addition to that, there were constant, meetings that Mr. Rogerman and I had together with both those teams, but particularly with BLAAC, to plan, for what those trainings would be. We would meet afterwards to gather feedback. We actually got feedback from the full PD day, that was given to all of the teachers to really get a sense of, did we, where, what services were provided, what needs were fulfilled through that, and, what the responses were. And we're able to use that feedback in order to go ahead and continue to design and guide, our future trainings with our admin team. But also that's where we, really were able to forward to the realization that we were wanting to move in the area of restorative justice as well as a result of those trainings and, feedback we received. And so that helped us, I think, sort of drive and just determine what, our continued direction for next year would be. In addition to that, as Mr. Rogerman already spoke to, was really BLAAC were absolutely influential in, as a result of being a part of those management team meetings and the trainings we did, in really helping us come to identify those 3 core values for next year, which have now are really serving as a theme for our LCAP, that belonging, safety, and prosperity, which is really going to drive all the work that we do for next year. And as our 4 goals of our LCAP are all sort of really geared towards those 3 initiatives essentially. And so I think those are the things that come to mind for me. I think in addition to that, just what Derek Williams and his team bring as a member of our long-standing member of our community. They've been instrumental in just sort of helping us, drive our direction in where we needed to go with our implementation plan. I even, see them as influential in that, decision that we made to even pull out that 4th goal, within the LCAP as well. So, I know that hasn't answered all of the questions. I think those are the pieces that fall to line right now. But as far as measurements of success, and I think that ultimately came through in the LCAP feedback that we were able to gather through in-person input sessions and our survey data of the direction that we were going. And we attribute so much of that work from the partnership that we had with BLAAC, and this is our ability to be able to continue that in moving forward. It's going to be in a slightly different capacity, and as Director Rogerman indicated, in the consultation format of this, that allows us to really be able to be as flexible and really us to be able to drive the need when we are ready for any kind of a communication campaign. They're going to be there to be able to provide those services. The contract is such that we pay as those services are provided. So, just because something's in there, if we're not ready for that next year, then, we hold on that, right? So I think that's important for the board and the community to know as well. But I think just the role that they've played in the work that we've done already, this is a chance for us to be able to, I think, sort of acknowledge that and be able to, continue that work through next year, because they've been influential in assisting us, as have our other partnerships. And I think, I look to Mr. Mason and Mr. Tarver, who, we've had multiple conversations, and I hope those will continue, throughout next year. I know they will, for your guidance and advice, as will, our workings with, other organizations within our community. And I think that's a critical piece. We've identified that as an area of focus and need in our LCAP, and we're committing to that, right, to be sure that that work continues. I think that's sort of, where it is. But if there's more information on there, more questions I didn't get to, we can definitely provide more information. Yeah, it was a follow.
Okay, great, terrific. And there was another member. I don't see anybody else online. So here we go.
Yeah, pretty good. Good evening. I'm Lyndon Tarver, the president of the Monterey branch in ACP. A few questions I have about the contract. One, would this contract substitute for Brave spaces we talked about at one time, and now Brave spaces are not available? So be the change. Will this contract with Black substitute that and DEI moving forward? The board meeting on 6th June, there was a joke made about Juneteenth as opposed to Juneteenth. I'm from Galveston, Texas, and I take that personally because to some Black folks, Juneteenth is more important than the 4th of July, because that's when Black folks are really free. So is the training that you receive from Black really working? I think not. If you want to say Juneteenth is Juneteenth, making a joke of it. It's not funny. And I didn't find any humor in it. Training. Training is one thing, but we've got to change policies. Hearts and minds, we're not here to win hearts and minds, but change policies. It need to be something tangible. So if something does happen, you have a framework to work from. As leaders of this district, I think we hold everyone responsible. I'm gonna hold you responsible as board members, and hold me responsible as a community member. Because I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do my part. I'm asking everyone to do their part. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from the room? I don't see anybody else online. So knowing that, let's go to board member comments on this particular item. Anyone?
I'll
No.
go, I guess.
Okay.
Elliot, is that okay? Okay. I took some notes from just now, actually, so I'm going to follow up on those questions, and then I have my original questions. So I would like to ask for an update on the policy framework that was part of the original cultural proficiency plan. I know that that was on there, and originally we were thinking by the end of the school year, but I would, Buck, is it possible for you to let us know where that's at?
Yes, that the framework has been built. It's not in the format yet where we're going to distribute it for the training purposes. But the foundation of the work is set. So we have the framework in place. What we haven't built yet is basically the one pager that's going to be really easy for folks to reference, that discusses how a bias incident is going to be handled by staff, and outlines the steps that staff will take when there's an incident of bias.
And when should we expect that?
Well, we're going to use it at our training on August 2nd. So
I was just going to say, I think that's going to be the end part of the training on that day, right? We were bringing all of the staff together at the school sites to be able to make sure we've got the collaboration input of all of the staff involved in that. Mm-hmm. And the plan would be that we have something, even more solidified at the end of that day that we can, then be able to put into place for the beginning and to roll out for that year.
Okay, that's the same day as the restorative justice professional.
Correct. The restorative justice goes until lunchtime, and then staff will the idea being that I don't want to speak for you, Director Rogerman, but they'll reconvene at their school sites afterwards with their admin, with work that they're going to all be doing, together at their school sites for that. Yes.
Okay. Does it seem like there's going to be policy change needed, or that the existing policy, or that's going to kind of complement the existing policy? Do you know yet?
I think
based on the work that we've done, it should fit within our existing policy.
Okay, I look forward to seeing that. I'm sure you'll share it with the board when you finish it.
We will, absolutely. Yes, indeed.
So I did make some notes about this contract with BLAAC. So the spirit of the contract, I feel like staff was definitely following board direction. I remember when BLAAC, when Derek Williams was here initially and raised his hand and said, "Hey, I'm here to help if you wish." And CBI raised their hand, and we hope to work further with other groups as well. So the spirit of it, I get why we're seeing this. However, I think the contract is it could use some clarity in the scope and the details, and I don't think we'll ever regret making a contract more clear. So after my comments tonight, I would like to see if the majority of the board is willing to have this come back with some more clarity because I think it would benefit everybody. So, for example, the contract reads that it's a campaign. It's campaign components. It's that the scope and quote is the development of a campaign mission, vision, values, statement that resonates with belonging, safety, and prosperity theme. However, when I was listening to staff describe it, it was more like it's a menu and we can pick and choose. And I don't think that that's clear in the contract. In fact, in our own independent consultant agreement on page 61, it says, for compensation, district agrees to pay up to $31,375 to consultant for services satisfactorily rendered pursuant to this agreement. Payment should be, district shall pay consultant according to the following terms and conditions. Payment for the services shall be made for all undisputed amounts within 30 days after the consultant submits an invoice. So on there, to me, reading that, when I first read this, I thought we're paying this entity, this contractor, $31,375. I think that we would benefit from that being more clear. And that also there may be components that we don't utilize. So I also, when I was reading it, I did feel that it sounded to me like PGUSD was kind of turning over its responsibilities of DEI to BLAAC. And I don't think that that's the intention of the contract. Buck, you're saying, you're nodding your head, yes. So if that's not the intention of it, it does say, Black will assist the district in all communications related to cultural proficiency, including community meetings. So those types of phrases just make it seem like we're going into a contract. $31,000 is not a small amount of money. So it sounds like we're going into to kind of have this our DEI work be done by Black. And I don't think it should read that way because it doesn't sound like that's how you all feel. And it's not really what we're doing. I don't know exactly how this addresses underlying racism and racial trauma of Black folks and Black children in our district. This is like a PR campaign, and I just want to be really careful that we're not launching a PR campaign while there's still pain and hurt and violence and racism in our schools, and that this PR campaign is public relations, marketing, et cetera. I don't think that we're there yet. And so I just want to be very careful with that. And with this, it's just not clear. Like in the agenda, it says that this is to launch the video campaign. It's going to be a video campaign to launch PGUSD's district-wide belonging, safety, and prosperity campaign to signify our dedication to fostering an environment where every student is valued and supported. However, in the contract, it doesn't really mention, it doesn't mention that it's the launching of that campaign in the same way. So I felt that could be more clear. I was hoping too for samples of work, samples of posters, or maybe a video link. I went on this agency's website. I saw 2 videos. They were short. They were I don't know if they had a kind of a logoed background. And so I'm not sure if that's what we're paying $31,000 for. I don't know if this agency is a communications professional or a communications agency. I didn't see anything like that on their website. So I'm kind of confused myself on what their credentials are for that. It wasn't clear in the staff report if we had checked with other vendors who offer this type of service and if this was the vendor that bubbled up to the top because of their credentials and expertise, et cetera. So I'm curious about that. And I will say, I did look up the original Black contract and it was $2,500 plus $125 an hour. And the contract at that time was extremely vague. And I feel like I should apologize to the public and to the staff for not bringing up my concerns at that time, because that was very vague at the time. And I was just in a moment where I just felt like we needed to do something. We were so desperate to not continue creating harm. But, this contract says, hold on, description of services. says that the consultant has a background of race relations, development training, and cultural migrations. Nowhere in it does it mention communications professional. So it says description of services, training, education, advisory, and support. No detail. So I really want to prevent that from happening again. I'll continue with my post-its. I was curious what the raw data reports were from the staff and board who attended the Black training and the cultural proficiency plan. On page 2, it does state that we would, on a 1 to 5 Likert scale, 75% of staff will provide positive ratings, a score 4 or 5. That was the goal. And I don't recall getting a board report on that, so I'm not sure what the acceptance rating was, if we met that goal. If we didn't meet that goal, I would say we need to look at some other vendors who can come and bring this forward for us, just to make sure we're doing our due diligence. So to summarize some of the points of clarity, the staff report, the first page of this document, it should, and the contract should tell the complete accurate story. So somebody who's seeing this for the first time completely understands the LCAP goals that this is fulfilling should be listed, in my opinion, in the staff report. With funding, like what bucket of funding, in the LCAP, we assign funding to each of these goals. So how much more funding do we have left after we pay for this, after we've paid for the 60,000 restorative justice contract? The cover sheet says it's a $30,000 even situation. The contract says it's a $31,375 situation. Which one is it? It should be clear, in my opinion. Even things on the contract listed, like the posters, campaign posters per design, $2,500. How many posters are they going to design? Maybe it's just one. What is the size? Are they going to pay for the printing? Are we going to pay for the printing? Are we going to own the artwork that they do? Are they going to own the artwork that they do? It's a whole thing. You can't, there's a lot of room for error when you have something graphic designed and then you're in charge of printing it. And then it's like a whole, there's a professional art to all of these things. And so I want the details to not create more work for us, because we're short on time. So I'll wrap this up. So also in the PGUSD contract, the contract itself doesn't have the vendor name filled in. That should be filled in. It says we're collaborating, yet this is an independent contractor agreement. I'm uncomfortable with the terms that we're collaborating. This is a contractor. Collaborating makes it sound like we're giving up some decision-making power or other types of power and agency to somebody else. And that's, in my opinion, not something I'll be able to approve. There's no exhibit to the contract. These additional pages from BLAAC is an exhibit to our independent consultant agreement, and they should be listed as such, and it's just not listed that there's an attachment. So my expectation is that the contracts will be clear, the deliverables will be able to be vetted, something tangible we can really verify, and that it's clear to the public that we're dedicated to the details and doing this right. So that's where I am on this right now.
Great.
Thank you.
Going around the horn, Trustee Otmar, anything to add?
I'm going to hold off for just a moment and process all of that. I'll hold for now. Thank you.
We can come back to, so as we go around, Trustee McNary.
Thank you. I guess I share some of the same questions as Trustee Carolyn with regard to just a basic contract level look at this. I would love to see other vendors and us do this similar vetting process like we've been starting to do in other departments, like Mr. Jorn's facilities needs assessment provided us with a table and the 3 vendors who had responded to the RFP and then what they were offering and the cost, so we could really get a picture of what was out there. I'd love to know what else is out there before we make a decision to spend $31,000. And I think this executive summary page reads like maybe a quote, but it's not specific. I have questions about what each of these items mean. And so I would need more information to be able to approve the contract.
Or were there any specific questions about like what does this item mean or this
Sure. Yeah, all of them. What does campaign messaging mean for 50 hours at a cost of 60 to 50? Like, what are we getting? Typically, I've often seen with contracts, there's included also a statement of work, and then that would go specifically into each of these headers to tell us how many campaign posters we're getting, or how many videos? Are they 8 minutes or 30-second blurbs? Are we getting 2 of them? Are we getting 5 of them? And then another question I have is about the timeline. I don't understand what messaging/consulting work : 45 days means. I don't understand that as far as a time frame, nor the other 2 bullet points behind that. Yeah, in addition, this doesn't seem cost inclusive because additional consulting will cost us $125 an hour. So I'd really like to know more specifically what we're looking at. It's hard for me to wrap my head around this as it's presented.
All right, thank you. Trustee Dr. Hazen.
Yeah, I guess I'll start with a question from that. There's some discussion, it makes it sound like this is a contract for 31,000, but this is a contract up to. So my understanding is we're basically, we're asking for services and the cost could come in less than that 31,000. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Secondarily, are we contracting out the need to develop these things to BLAAC, or are we using them as a consultant to help us as a district develop them? Because that's the way I read the contract. That's not the way I'm hearing the questions asking about it.
I think the best way to describe it is that it's a combination of both. That part of BLAAC is that they've got a video production professional. And we did look at some of the work that this person has done before we entered into the contract for the video work. And it was based on those video projects that we gauged that they'd be competent.
Right. Because I mean, I'll go back this not to dig up old buried skeletons, but this reminds me of, discussions we've had over, whether contracts about repairs and such, like we want 100 windows replaced. And I'm making that number up. That's not something that was stated, but that's not always a realistic goal. As you get into a project, you might have needs shift and such. So I guess I'm less concerned with the specifics of what we are going to get out of this, as long as we're making sure we're engaging. And it does sound like there's some message here that this is not the right vendor from folks on the board. And I'd love to hear more thoughts about why that is, because I had been impressed in the past with their contribution to our trainings. And so I did not see a problem with this contract when I read it, because I saw it as an up to, and I thought it was a case of the district working towards the goals we're trying to do better. That said, I agree with all the comments that have been made that this is not enough, but I don't think this is the only thing we're doing as a district. And I do believe, that the baby steps we've taken forward so far are going to continue. And as long as that's, the belief of the district office and the cabinet here, I'm in support of trusting them to go forward with with this potentially. But I'd be curious if folks on the board, if anyone does have an issue with this particular vendor, if that could be shared, because that's the tone I was getting, but I might be overinterpreting.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. It's more for me, the clarity of the contract. And the initial contract with this vendor was extremely vague. The scope was 4 words. And it was kind of like, okay, let's get this started. But I feel like now we're in a spot where we need to make sure there are so many vendors out there. And I realize that now this vendor has been working with the district as well as a couple others. So if they're working with the district and the staff is comfortable with this, that's not really my question or my concern, but I want to make sure that we're doing this right. And the points that I brought up that are now buried in my Post-it notes about the clarity. I really want to be clarity, especially the part I feel the way I read it was the person at Black or BLAAC put this together as a campaign, and then they detailed out the campaign components. And gave an estimated cost of this campaign. From when I read this contract, it did not seem like the person writing it felt that this was a menu that we can pick and choose from. Just by nature of a campaign, that is an encompassing project. And so there's that. But then I also, when I asked further questions, then staff said, well, Black is also going to consult with Restorative Justice Project regarding the needs of our community. Black will assist the district in all aspects of communication related to cultural proficiency. The way that the let's see, there's part 2 that says like I can't find it right now, that they're gonna help us out in when there's certain events that take place. So then I was like, wait, are they a communications professional? Are they going to be writing memos? Like I just want it to be really clear what we're getting.
Okay, yeah, and I guess the way I read this contract is that when we're embarking on certain aspects that we up here may not be comfortable, we have somebody who's more of an expert that we can bounce ideas off of and make sure it's right. Not that they will produce an 8-minute video for us. So I viewed this as more as them providing the backstop for the cultural proficiency that the district is undertaking. And backstop isn't the right word, but I mean, knowledge and advice, and make sure we're not saying things that are hurtful, even if however unintended they might be. So that's why I viewed this as more of a consultant agreement than we will get these 5 products at the end of it, but they will be on call, on retainer, so to speak, up to 31,000 to answer those questions and needs when they arise.
To see if what we're putting into a video is culturally proficient, or what we're
Right, or hurtful,
or
unintentionally hurtful that it might not be, or that, we're addressing the right issues. We're not just putting a nice, bow on something that isn't actually making the changes that we want to see made.
I think that could be more clear in the contract. And is what Elliot said, is that what this contract is for? So for example, when it says video production, who's in the video, who's writing the script for the video, who's filming the video, or are they just filming the video and editing it, or what exactly is going on with each of these? And you don't even have to answer that, but like that is the clarity that I wish was in this contract.
I do just feel I do want to answer that, because I think, again, it's clear you took different things from it, and that gives us, some answers there as well. But I mean, the idea being that, yes, we staff will be in the video, and the first one we want to do is going to be just a really simple one of just a message that's going out from me as the superintendent and our cabinet staff, to really just kind of drive the direction of where we're headed and what our focus for this coming year will be. So they're going to help in just the actually shooting that video, right? Their team will do that part of it. And then as far as writing the script, I mean, that would be sort of a collaborative piece. I mean, that message comes from us, right? We want to be sure that that's, our language. But again, we have the advice and the assistance from experts in that field to help us craft that and be sure that, it's going to come across with the exact tone, that we want, and that, I think, ideally capturing what we want to say, right, as a district for our, captures the tone for the beginning of the year. But hopefully that answers the question. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love for that clarity to be in here.
Yeah, and to me, that's where the clear thing of up to comes, right? That's where it's like, we're not asking for a specific product. Like we will get an 8-minute video. We're asking for their services in producing whatever those communication materials would be.
So the contract could say, a number of videos and length to be determined, but could set forth who is really creating the video and who owns it afterwards, because this is essentially creating intellectual property. This is creating art, and it's not clear to me who's going to own the art afterwards either, especially if they're creating. I thought I saw somewhere in here a logo even, and that could be something that I read elsewhere. But I think clarity in the contract, making sure that the cover sheet and the contract are identical, making it really clear to the public. If anybody picks this up, they're like, oh, okay, the campaign messaging is going to be this. Even some examples of work would be wonderful. And then I'll leave it at that. I've spoken so much. I'll leave it at that.
I'm not even sure where to start. I understand some of the questions about tightening up the contract. but some of the suggestions too that, and I'm not sure if a couple of my fellow board members are actually suggesting that the board approve artwork or approve who appears in a video, which seemed to have been mentioned. That kind of exploded my brain a little bit.
You want me to clarify, Brian? Because I don't want to hurt your brain on that, because I definitely don't think we should be getting that far into the weeds on it. I just want the contract to read clearly what we're signing up for.
Okay. So, any other further board comments on this particular item?
I'm ready to talk about it. So after listening to what everyone has said and commented on, I'm fine with the contract. It would be great if there was a little bit, if the cover matched the contract. So if we can fix that, of course, that's just probably a typo, which happens, but it can be corrected. I'm taking this as more of a consulting contract. I know the word campaign is in there, but it sounds to me that what's happening is more of they're taking more of a consulting role, and that we're going to have, I don't know that we would go into who owns logos and all of that in this contract. I suppose there could be something that comes afterwards to specify that. I'm fine approving this today because I'd like to get moving forward with this. I think up to the 34,100, whatever it is. It's not right in front of me. Anyway, I would like to just move forward with this. I think it's fine. Thank you, Buck, for bringing it. Appreciate you.
And if I could just make a suggestion about that, I mean, I wonder if we could move, if the board would feel comfortable making a motion to move forward with some specific changes. With, basically we're saying we do want who will own the intellectual property from this, right? And I think the message being largely we want the district to own the intellectual property from it. So that, is that correct? I mean, would that be a step forward? And then also having that the errors that you mentioned, Laura, also be corrected seems important. Or do you feel, Trustee Carroll, that there's more work that needs to be done?
I read out most of my clarity concerns, but not all of. So the motion would be very lengthy, which I'm happy to do. But I don't know if there's necessarily a rush. We have a meeting in July. I think that I could state. I don't know the best way. Linda, do you have a way that you would want the information? I mean, I can make the motion. I guess I can make a motion, but I would feel most comfortable if we had a chance to see it come back with what was added in it, because it's not just, clerical error on the cover sheet. I'd be more, so sorry, it took me a moment, but I would be happy to do a motion if it was something as quick and succinct as that, but it's so lengthy that, I feel like it should just come back in July and have all that information in it.
Could I ask the staff, is that doable? Is July doable still to meet timelines, or do we feel this is important to and please do be honest there.
I think it'd be fine. And based on the concerns that have been expressed here tonight, honestly, I think that's probably the best path forward. Yeah, I think that's absolutely something that we can and should do.
Would you like me to make? Yes, Linda?
Yeah, well, do we want to go ahead and still put the motion forward or just give direction at this point? If the board agrees with that's the direction for us to go ahead and make changes and bring it back with some more clarity to it. But I will look to the board for your direction on that.
I would be in favor of just giving direction to staff to increase the clarity, how they see fit. You've heard our discussion tonight. I do have confidence that you were, you can re-watch the tape too. Another benefit of having the tape, and bring it back in July as a fresh item instead of, the other thing is I could meet and bring my Post-it notes, but then the whole board doesn't have the benefit of being there for that. And so since we already just had this discussion.
Everything is shared, and you're absolutely right. I took notes as you were all speaking, and then yes, if we miss anything, we have the video to go back to. So I think we're good. Yeah.
Okay. I would be in favor of that if the majority of the board is.
Board, what are we looking at?
I'll just be honest, I hate pushing things off if we can make a motion, but I understand the concerns. So I'm willing to entertain a motion if someone wants to make it, but I'm also willing to rest.
I suppose I feel the same way about that. I'd be willing to entertain a motion that wasn't maybe. I understand the need to have a contract spelled out, but there comes a point where, you know, there needs to be a little bit of maybe space for movement, especially if it's more of a consultant and you're going to be making videos and they're going to be helping us with that. There's a process that has to happen, and I don't want to strap it down into a contract where it's like, well, I don't know. I think that this is going to be kind of a work in progress as well. So I guess I'm a bit on the fence about it.
My concern is that this turns into something that just takes a lot of time when there are a lot of other things. I would be happy to move forward with just correcting some of the incongruities and adding a statement that any artwork or videos or items like that remain the property of PGUSD.
I like it. I'm on board with that.
All right, well, I'm going to make that motion then, and that we move forward with this, but correct those incongruities that were mentioned, and that any intellectual property, any artwork, anything like that remains the property of PGUSD.
I'll second.
All right.
I'll make a friendly amendment to that. And the friendly amendment would, just for process purposes, be voted on first if it gets a second. So I'll make a friendly amendment that we take our time and we have staff review the discussion and fill in what they feel they need to, and bring it back in July, because staff has said that it's not a time constraint, and I would feel really comfortable moving forward with it at that time.
I'll second that amendment.
I don't know exactly how that works now, because don't we?
So I made a friendly amendment and trustee McNary seconded it. So we would vote on the friendly amendment. And then if the friendly amendment passes, the original motion goes away. If the friendly amendment does not pass, then the original motion would be voted on.
Okay. All right. So I'm happy to go forward with a vote on the friendly amendment. That would be a roll call.
And that is me. President Swanson.
No.
Dr. Hazen.
No.
Trustee McNary.
Aye.
Trustee Otmar.
No.
Trustee Swanson.
Aye.
Okay, so it does not pass.
Could I just make another friendly amendment on the first one, if that's not too crazy?
You can amend the amendment. You can. You can make a friendly amendment.
Essentially, I would just like to add the opportunity to add additional clarity to the contract. And I will leave it open to that as long as it does not modify the substance to it. I would be willing to vote yes on that. That'd be my friendly amendment to the original proposal.
Do you want to state the entire, start with Brian's, just so it's really clear to staff, because
to fix the incongruities, work on the clarity of the contract language, and make sure that intellectual property is owned by the district.
That's your motion?
That would be my friendly,
Or your friendly amendment on
your motion.
My motion, and I will second your friendly amendment.
I don't know how I'm going to take notes on this, but this is great.
Oh, I bet Lou is enjoying this.
amendments can be discussed.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so we have a friendly amendment
With a question from Laura. Yep.
The question on friendly amendment 2 is, I guess, the difference of what you're asking for versus 1.
I'm asking that we pass it tonight. Oh, you mean the only difference is that asking for some of the issues that Trustee Carolyn brought up just be addressed as long as it doesn't change the substance of the
Passed tonight and then signed with the things
the
that we need.
changes. So that way
Okay.
it's not coming
Roger that.
back on our next agenda. But
Okay.
it's addressing some of, but not all of the board concerns that were raised tonight.
I got it. Okay,
So we have a
thank you.
second friendly amendment and a second on the second friendly amendment, and let's go to roll call vote.
I'm here. President Swanson. Oh, we didn't hear that.
Aye. Did you
Dr.
get it?
Hazen.
Aye.
Trustee McNary.
No.
Trustee Otmar.
Yes.
Trustee Swanson.
Aye.
Okay, so passes 4-1. And now we can move on to action discussion item 2, which is proposed board calendar, right? That's where we are? Yes.
That is it, yes. And you have all of the dates in front of you, and really the only change that we have made since our last meeting, which I believe was maybe even made at our last meeting, was to have July 9th as a regular meeting. Any comments or questions on any of those dates or items we'll be bringing forward at those meetings?
Just going to look at my calendar real quick to check on July 9 too, to make sure, because I did not really get a chance to see that yet. Okay, and I think we actually have to go to public comment on this item before, so I jumped the gun. Public comment on future agenda items. I don't see anybody with their hand raised. Anybody in the room? Okay, so now let's go to, well, I already made my board comment. I'm okay with it. Any other board comments?
I have one. Our next meeting is also going to be on a Tuesday, and according to our calendar, we're going to be considering the bond. And since we're having a meeting on a day that we don't typically, and it's an item of great importance, and we've had a lot of community input, I just want to make sure that we're very clear in our messaging so that if people want to attend, they have the correct information.
I appreciate that, Trustee McNary. And actually, this is Lucia and I have had that conversation as of this morning, just to talk about, we're going to be sure to send out a separate email to the community, making sure we draw attention to the fact of the date change, but also, yes, the fact that will be on the agenda for that item. So that'll be going out probably next week. Yeah, or even right at the beginning of July. So thank you.
And that's a 5:30 start time?
5:30, correct, yes.
So it's a regular meeting. Yeah, my policy heart is breaking right now. The policy says no exceptions, every other first and third Thursday. Open session starts at 6:30. So we're gonna have a meeting on a Tuesday,
Correct.
which my policy heart, I guess, has to handle because it's when all 5 of us could be there. But can it please start at 6:30? Because
Sure,
open
we could
session,
do- yeah,
according to our
open
policy.
session will start at 6:30. Yes,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I should have clarified that. If we have the need for closed, which we do, it'll be 5:30, but open session will be
Okay.
6:30.
Thank you.
And I know we're looking at, adjusting some of the language in that policy at our next policy committee, just to give us a bit of flexibility in the event we need to. But, I'll remind everyone this, that originally, and, I believe it started as a special meeting, and then we had the need to turn it into a regular meeting. And
It's the best we
that's why
could do.
Yes.
Okay. As long as 6:30 is open session,
6:30. Yeah.
I'll power through.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And that's information discussion item. So that was as much direction as we needed to give. With that, we are not actually adjourning. We are going to return to closed session. And
Future agenda items, I don't know if there is any, but
yeah, I didn't. Oh, I'm sorry. No, you're right. I jumped ahead. So we do actually need to move on this, right? Because we added that date. Is that correct?
We didn't add any dates. Nothing has been added. No.
It's under action discussion.
yeah, so we still have to approve it, I think,
Oh,
because of the
correct,
July 9th
yes.
being a regular
Right.
meeting.
Yeah.
But the
Okay.
July 9th is regular meeting is.
I think
We
if we
didn't
don't
change
change
anything,
anything
then
as
we
it's
can just move
presented, then we
forward.
don't have to make a motion
Correct.
today.
Yep.
Unless, yeah.
Sounds good to me.
All right, now let's move on. Future agenda items under information discussion. Anyone?
Nope, nothing here.
There were a couple of future agenda items on the last meeting, and I saw them on the minutes, but where did those ones go? Linda?
So we will be, where did they go?
Where'd they go? They're not
To
here.
Netherlands. I think I know the one was K through 3 Spanish, and so we will be looking at doing bringing that as a future agenda item with a presentation and some information.
Oh.
And so we do need to, Lucia, if you'll make a note on that. I don't know if we've added it because we don't have our dates yet for August through December, and I know that'll be on the next one. And so I think we agreed on putting that on September possibly, but yeah, it's there. It has not been lost, and I
They
forget what the
exist.
second one was as well, but we'll make sure we get that on there as well. Yeah,
Thank you.
indeed. Yes, thank you.
Good point, Carol.
Okay. All right, so we do have to go to public comment on future agenda items too.
That's great.
All right. So I don't see anybody online. Anyone in the room want to step on up? I'm seeing no movement. Okay. So now is the time that we move back into closed session. So we will report out when we're done. No idea how long this might be. So just stay glued to your screen if you're at home. Bang that gong.
Back in at 9:49.
Great, thanks. Everybody, we're just going to report out on the last couple items that we covered in closed session. Item number 3, which is public employee discipline, dismissal, release, leave, complaint. Government Code 54957. We approved the resignation agreement with Justice Great. And then item number 6, which was public employee evaluation, completing the evaluation of our superintendent. The evaluation of the superintendent was better than satisfactory. And that is all we have for the evening. So for anybody who's still sticking around, there are 8 people online or 8 entities online. That is amazing. Let's all go home and get some rest and have well, it's not even the weekend yet. Well, anyway, now I'm just gonna stop talking. Gavel us out, will you, sir?